Start investing in gold and silver at sdbullion.com today and join over 35,000 precious metals investors who have made the switch to the lowest gold and silver prices in the industry. SD Bullion recently claimed a spot on the prestigious Inc. 500, making them one of the fastest growing bullion companies in the United States. With low bullion prices and over-the-top customer service, SD Bullion is setting the standard for precious metals transactions. Visit www.sdbullion.com today. Start saving on every precious metals purchase you make.
Hey friends, thanks for tuning in. I want to wish each and every one of you a happy new year. And we're going to kick off 2017 with Keith Neumeyer, the CEO of First Majestic Silver Corporation, the chairman of First Mining Finance, and a giant shareholder in Silver One Resources. Keith, man, do we have a lot to talk about. Welcome back.
Well, thanks, Sean. It's been a few months since we chatted last, and lots has happened since that time, obviously.
Yeah, lots indeed. And I want to kick it off with the fact that Deutsche Bank has provided smoking gun proof of massive rigging and fraud in the silver market. And boy, I've got some readers that have sent me some scathing emails asking why silver executives aren't all banding together and putting an end to this thing. I think it's lost on some of these people that the power lies with the bankers in the Wall Street manipulators, the international banking manipulators. But let me just read this. In the document records surrendered by Deutsche Bank and presented below, traders and submitters were captured coordinating trades in advance of a daily phone call, manipulating the spot market for silver, conspiring to fix the spread on silver offered to customers, and using illegal strategies to rig pricing. Plaintiffs are now able to plead with direct smoking gun evidence, including secret electronic chats involving silver traders and submitters across a number of financial institutions, a multi-year, well-coordinated, and wide-ranging conspiracy to rig the prices, the plaintiffs said in their filing. Keith, nobody is more aware of this manipulation than you. Your thoughts on what we now know to be 100% true?
Well, Sean, I'm glad you brought that up, and I actually wasn't expecting that as your first question. But nevertheless, mining executives are generally pretty conservative guys. Mining itself is a pretty old, very conservative business. Run generally speaking by engineers and geologists for the most part, and they keep their heads down and they focus very much on running their day-to-day business. And unfortunately, a lot of them aren't finance guys, like myself, who does, look at the markets. I was trained, on the floor of the stock exchange. I spent, 6 years trading equities, for 3 large national Canadian banks. So, I have an intimate knowledge of, what goes on the trading floors and, how front running occurs, how wash trading occurs, how spoofing occurs, and I've seen all these things happen, and I know these are practices that are continuing today, but this change from when I was on the floor back in the 80s to how it is done today. It's all done by computers, and it's very fast, and it's very, very powerful. Much more powerful than it was in the 80s and in the early 90s, until computers started to take over trading around the planet. And today, the people aren't even really, monitoring this, because the computers have just basically taken over and just trading these things all over the place and whipping prices in not just commodities, but all things that trade publicly are just being whipped around by computers. And we as the mining industry, or I probably shouldn't speak for the entire mining industry. Me as an executive at First Majestic Silver, I've been looking for an opportunity to step in. I've been very vocal. I've talked to many executives that are running other silver companies and trying to get their support. When the Deutsche news came out, I sent an email to the law firm who's responsible for this lawsuit, and I had a conference call 10 days ago, just a few days before Christmas, with 2 lawyers, the 2 main lawyers. I'm not going to name names. And I had them on the call for approximately an hour, and we spoke about this case. And I've been emailing the top executives within the silver space, including top executives within Sprott Asset Management in Toronto. And I'm not going to name the executives who I've been in communication with. I don't think that would be fair. But I can tell you that a couple of the CEOs of some very prominent silver companies in the space have told me by email that they have no interest in pursuing this. Other CEOs have said clearly by email that they are interested in pursuing this with First Majestic. We're monitoring this. We're going to follow it. We're likely going to, at some point, add our name to the class action lawsuit. As a result of my discussions with the lawyers, there's timing issues surrounding this. This is a case that's going to go on for likely another year, possibly 2 years. The class action process in the United States is very complex, and you have to go along the process in a very one step at a time. And so anyways, we're monitoring it. I think we will get involved. I'm trying to push other CEOs in the silver space to get involved. But it still surprises me that there are people within the executive of some of these mining companies that just really aren't interested at all in participating in a lawsuit like this, because I think their responsibilities to their shareholders, to their investors, and to their employees and the communities that they're active in. And as prices get whipped around, and we've seen silver go from $21 to $16 in a matter of a couple of months, how many jobs were lost? How many people were affected negatively? How many millions and millions of dollars have been lost as a result of the manipulation that's occurred in the last 3 or 4 months? And there's very, very few executives that are coming to the table and wanting to join First Majestic in any kind of cause like this. And I think it's a shame.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame too. But again, I'd say a feather in your cap for reaching out to the big boys and trying to get something done about this. I'll just, in the interest of sharing this from one of the folks that sent me a scathing email, his name's David C., and I told him I would. I'd ask you about this. He said, if I was one of the billionaire boys along with Sprott and Rick Rule, I would be pounding on Trudeau's door screaming at what is happening to the sector, all the while as Canada's natural resources are being plundered in these manipulated markets, end quote. And it sounds like that's what you're doing, but the problem is other silver executives aren't doing it with you.
Well, the people at Sprott are very much on side. They run the PSLV, which is a large silver trust. It's publicly traded, and First Majestic is actually a shareholder of that trust, and it's well respected. And they own, I don't know how many ounces of silver, but they own a lot of silver. And of course, for them, it's a huge has a huge impact on them as silver price moves up and down. So, but look, we have collectively a lot of ounces in the ground over our portfolio, and our share price whips around as well. Our market cap went from 400 million at the beginning of the year to just over 3 billion in the summer, and it's about half that number. And you can't tell me that the supply-demand fundamentals of silver changed that dramatically over a 12-month period. I would argue that silver consumption's actually increased over this 12 months as a result of all the automation and solar panels and so on that's going on in the world. So, but yet the price gets cut substantially, and First Majestic's share price gets cut in over half. And that's all to do with all these games that are being played in the futures markets.
Yeah. Well, and there's been a lot of people hurt by it, and that's what makes everybody so angry about these UBS Deutsche Bank emails. We can see in black and white the traders literally laughing as they fleece people, and it's just epic criminality. There's no other definition for it, and some heads should definitely roll. We should see some people go to prison, and if there were ever to be honest markets, we need to see this manipulation end for the health of the sector. Look, I'm a shareholder, as you know, in First Majestic Silver, in First Mining Finance, where you're the chairman, and in Silver One Resources. And we can talk about all three of those companies, but I'd say this. Were you shocked to see the action? Let's just take First Majestic as an example. The action in First Majestic, as you just noted, in 2016, it went from around a low of $3 upwards of $18 a share, and then it finished 2016 just below $8 a share. This kind of whipsawing action was really stunning, what we saw in early 2016 right up until summer. Are you surprised to see things crash as hard as they've crashed? And given these emails, are you hopeful that the end is in sight and this manipulation will come to an end? Or are we just playing the same record over and over and over?
I wish I had an answer to that question, because sometimes, I ask myself the same question. When you've got so much money, moving around the planet and then just chasing anything, if something goes up, it's just going to go up a lot more than it would normally go up. If something's going down, it's going to go down a lot more than it normally goes down, because these computers, these algorithms just catch on to these things and just drive them like crazy in one direction or other. And looking at First Majestic, for example, we started the year with a 14 million share short position, which is slightly less than 10% of our total issued and outstanding shares. That short position dropped to around 4 million shares in the summer, and the stock obviously went up 4 or 5 times during that period of time. So you had a lot of momentum people, you had a lot of short covering, you had a lot of people, chasing the silver story, and so on and so forth. So that, it was almost a perfect storm on the upside, which created what we saw. But without computers, guaranteed that wouldn't have happened. And then all of a sudden, today, we have a short position of somewhere around 18 million shares. Last I checked, about a month ago. I don't know if there's been a lot of short covering lately, because I just simply hasn't checked. But so we went from 14 to 4 to 18. So our short position now is somewhere around 13% of the total issued and outstanding shares, which is a record high for us.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
So it's all momentum. It's just these computers just catch on to the story, and it's quite shocking to me, and it's very harmful to the shareholders as well, because they lose confidence in investing. If someone wants silver exposure, what are you going to buy? First Majestic is really the purest silver company out there, so of course you want First Majestic as part of your portfolio. But when the stock does what it does, it really does scare people away, unfortunately.
Yeah, 18 million shares short. It reminds me of the naked shorting done at overstock.com, which Patrick Byrne laid bare for the world to see. I mean, it's this epic Wall Street criminality that is just, so many of us are absolutely fed up. All right, well, let me ask you this. I've said for a long time that Bitcoin is the salt in the wound for those of us who understand honest money. I've got, full disclosure, I own 1.79 Bitcoins, right? Less than 2. But I got some skin in the game just because I figured at some point the thing will probably go to 10,000, because it appears to be unmanipulated. And silver sits at 16. Meanwhile, we look at the U.S. debt clock, usdebtclock.org, and we can see that the real price of silver in dollars should be about $1,000 an ounce. The real price in gold, north of $9,000 an ounce. But these manipulated prices, first of all, I should apologize. I don't mean to go on such a rant, but I'm just voicing the frustration that so many of us feel by the endless manipulation of our markets. And silver and gold are supposed to be honest money. Meanwhile, we see Bitcoin north of 900, and it really just is salt in the wound, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard to remain positive when we see what we see, right? There is rules in place, and the rules are very clear. Yet the regulators don't really seem to want to enforce the rules. Spoofing is a very common practice, and I see it happen on a regular basis just in the equity markets, but it happens in the high frequency markets, in the commodities space as well, and it can be very effective tool to move markets either up or down. And these are fake orders that are entered into the system that are there to scare or to excite individuals to either buy or sell a particular thing, and it is manipulation, and it's used frequently, and there's ways that the regulators can monitor it. They can see it happening. The exchanges know when false bids and offers get put into the system and get canceled immediately when prices start to get close to where those bids or offers are located. Yet the regulators, the exchanges, don't step in, because the exchanges are owned by the banks, and the banks are doing those types of trading. So it's the self-policing system, which doesn't work because no one wants to police themselves because they're all making too much money. How does Bank of America or JP Morgan not have a losing day for year after year in trading? It's absolutely impossible. Traders lose money. It happens all the time. Yet Bank of America and JP Morgan has not lost a single dollar, or pardon me, has not had a single losing day for at least a couple of years, as far as I know.
The fox is guarding the hen house, and I'll say this as it relates to being positive about silver and gold, because I am. It's my largest position, obviously, is in precious metals, stocks, and then physical. When confidence is lost in a currency, we can see what's going on in Venezuela right now with the hyperinflation of the bolivar. My understanding right now is that with silver at $16 USD, it would take north of 600,000 bolivars to buy 1 ounce of physical silver. So ultimately, it is the loss of confidence in the dollar that will correct these markets if regulators aren't going to do it. All right, I have one other important thing I want to discuss with you. It's about the Cashless Society. But before we do that, as an investor in Silver One Resources, First Mining Finance, and First Majestic Silver, and frankly, it's all because of you. I believe in you, and I think that you're one of the straight shooters in the industry. Can you give us an update on these companies, maybe in reverse order? Let's start with Silver One Resources, SLVRF, then let's talk briefly about First Mining Finance, and then let's round it out with some good news about First Majestic.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to do as quickly as possible. Obviously, there's a lot of information I can talk about on each company, and I would say to your listeners that they should probably go to the websites of each of the companies, or at least contact the company for additional information. But in the case of Silver One, it's run by a pretty good group of guys and mining professionals that I support and quite like a lot, and that's why I decided to write my own check and put money into the company, and that's why I did the deal with them with First Mining Finance, and First Mining Finance sold them 3 silver projects that all are quite interesting. And all have silver. It's just a matter of drilling them and defining exactly what's there in the ground. And fortunately, First Mining owns a nice position in Silver One as a result of the sale, and I own a nice position in Silver One as well as a result of my investment. So that's really kind of my silver exploration investment, if I could put it that way. And they're not going to remain just focused in Mexico. I think they're looking elsewhere. And of course, with First Majestic Silver, it's very much a one country, one metal story. So this company, Silver One, will be looking around the world, and I understand they are looking in several countries around the world looking for silver assets, which of course interests me a lot. But it is an exploration company, and they're going to be drilling holes and exploring for silver, and hopefully over the next year or 2 or 3, they're going to develop a very nice silver resource, and hopefully eventually, according to Greg Crow, who's the CEO, they would like to become a producing silver company. So I'm excited about being invested in that.
And that's SVE on the TSX Venture, SVE and SLVRF on the over-the-counter in the States, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. SVE in Canada, that's right. And it trades around 85 cents, and I think it's had it's gone up to around a $1.30 level, and it's come down as well with a lot of the other stocks. But but I think it's a great exposure to a potentially up and coming silver story. So, okay. And of course First Mining Finance. This is my gold investment, if I can put it quite frankly like that. When I saw the bottom of the market back a couple of years ago, I was compelled to put together another company, and obviously I've got a ton of my net worth in First Majestic Silver, very much focused on silver, being the purest silver company in the world. So I wanted to focus on gold, and I wanted to focus on Canadian gold assets because I viewed Canadian gold assets as really the cheapest in the gold space. And I had my technical group go through a variety of companies. I think we had a short list at one time of about 60 companies. We whittled that down to our top 10, and over a period of about 14 or 15 months, we ended up buying 8 companies over that period of time. Quite as astounding success rate. I don't think there's any other mining company on the planet that's ever done that before. At least I've never seen anyone do that before. But it was we took advantage of a situation where a lot of these juniors who had spent tens of millions of dollars on their gold assets in Ontario and Quebec, who developed quite interesting looking projects, ran out of money and or almost in a lot of cases bankrupt. And we stepped in and took over the companies and refinanced them and gave the assets a new life. And we're now drilling. We've got a portfolio that is in excess of about 10 million ounces of gold. We've got some historic ounces as well, which will be upgraded, we hope, to 43-101 category. So that 10 million ounces is going to grow over the next few months. And as we drill throughout 2017, we expect that number is even going to grow higher. So, we have objectives of growing that number substantially higher over the next 1 or 2 years by drilling and exploring and developing ounces. And quite frankly, looking around, I think that First Mining Finance likely owns one of the best gold portfolios there is of any junior mining company on the planet. So it's something that your listeners, if they're wanting exposure in gold, they should seriously look at, because it's got 25 projects, and the bigger ones, the ones with the gold that's defined 43-101 compliant ounces, the 10 million ounces I referred to, all in mining friendly Ontario and Quebec. So it's a great gold company to be looking at, and I highly recommend it. And of course, then there's First Majestic Silver. And by the way, the symbol on First Mining Finance is SS in Canada, and I forget what it is in the United States. You probably have it, Sean.
Yeah, in the States, I believe it's FFMGF, Keith. Okay, as we round out the conversation, let's touch on First Majestic Silver real briefly. I just know that the company was on track in 2016 to pull, 3 times the amount of silver out that it did when the stock was at a previous high of $27 a share back in 2012. So I love the story. That's why I own the shares.
Yeah, and sorry for rambling on if I am, but obviously I'm excited about my investments. But in the case of First Majestic Silver, we're entering our 15th year of business now, and the time has flown. Doesn't feel like 15 years ago, but you're right. When the stock hit a high of about $26 Canadian, actually the U.S. and Canadian dollar were at par at the time, so it was basically the same in U.S. currency. That was in April of 2011. I think that year we produced about 7 million ounces equivalent, and in 2016 will be around 18 million ounces equivalent, and then a little bit more than that in 2017. So, yeah, and the stock obviously is much lower than it used to be. So, just goes to show you, and our costs, mind you, are quite a lot lower than they were before. We're now making money at even current metal prices, which is pretty exciting, and the cash flows that we're generating at current metal prices, it's not as good as it would have been or will be when silver gets back up over $20, but at $16 or $17, we're still making pretty good money, and we'll be leaving 2016 with the highest treasury we've had in the company's history. So yeah. I don't want to say that number right now because it will be public in the next few weeks, but it's a nice, healthy number, and we'll be starting to reinvest capital. In 2017, we're actually expanding our exploration programs, we're expanding our development programs, and 2018 we're getting prepared for additional growth. So 2017 will be a modest year change from 2016. It really won't be that much. It'll be basically almost flat year over year, but by 2018, as a result of our investment that we're doing in 2017, we're going to start to see some production growth again in 2018, so we're pretty excited about that. But, we got 6 producing mines. We're the second largest silver producer in Mexico. We're the purest silver producer in the world. About 70% of our revenue comes from the sale of silver. That's pretty unique considering most of the silver companies, generate about 40 to 50% of the revenue in silver. And that's actually going to go up by the end of 2017. That number should get close to 80% because we're making an expansion at one of our mines. They're called the La Encantada mine, and it's going to produce more silver in 2018. So that purity will start to go up over the next 12 to 14 months, which is something we're excited about.
Yeah, that's great. Well, all right, so the company's healthy despite all of this downward manipulation in the price of silver in the second half of 2016. And again, full disclosure, I'm a shareholder of First Majestic Silver. That ticker is AG. I also own First Mining Finance stock, and I own some Silver One Resources. And I own these 3 stocks because of Keith, because I believe in Keith, and I know he's a straight shooter. And as we round out this conversation, I just want to say in defense of really any of the CEOs out there who are really being victimized by the Wall Street manipulators and the international banking manipulators, just as we shareholders are. We can see what the long-term plan is of these bankers. If we look at India, this is where the bankers want to take us. They want to ban cash. They want to manipulate the prices of silver and gold lower to break the confidence that people have in them as real money. And they ultimately want to take us into their cashless society. And I'll tell you what, on behalf of all the listeners of this show, people that believe in silver and gold and honest money and a return to rule of law in this country, which hopefully Donald Trump will help bring us, we are going to reject what the bankers are trying to bring us. And I think they want to bring us a cashless society in this country too.
Well, they're experimenting in India right now, in my view, and they're testing the will of the people. And we're seeing some kickback now. We're starting to see riots in India just in the last couple of days. There's been a lot of protests, and the economy has almost come to a halt now, where people are having challenges just transporting food from one community to another because there's no way of paying people to for their services, because things are generally paid for cash in that country. It'll be very interesting to see how things evolve there. I'm hoping that we're going to see a breakdown of what they're attempting to do. The French election's coming shortly. I'm hopeful there that we're going to see a new government come in. They're already saying some pretty interesting things about change, similar to what we've seen in the United States and in the UK, where Brexit occurred, and now the Trump administration is coming in. I think on a positive note regarding Trump, he's got a couple of pro-gold individuals that he's appointed to his inner circle. So I'm looking forward to seeing them start to make some gold-favored policies that will help, obviously, us as a mining company and our investors as well. But we're in a very uncertain time, and I think that the world is changing. I'm optimistic that the change is for good, and I think that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is being run by the central bankers, what I call the old guard, is being broken down, and I think they are losing the fight. So we just need a couple of more of these big governments, Germany next year, Italy next year, France next year. These are extremely important elections coming up, and it's all looking like it's going to be in favor of what we're trying to achieve, and that's free markets.
All right. Amen. All right. Well, here's to that. Here, if I had a beer in front of me, I would drink to that idea, and here's to a good 2017. I think we're on the cusp of a lot of bigger problems, though, with the bond market bubble and the breakdown of the monetary system globally. And that's why those of us who believe in silver and gold in physical form will continue to purchase it, because aside from Bitcoin, I can't think of one other way to protect ourselves from this criminal malfeasance that we see internationally. And Keith, again, I want to thank you for your time. You're a straight shooter, and you know how much we appreciate your time.
Well, I always enjoy having conversations like this, and I just wish there was more of the mining executives, and hopefully they're listening to this piece, because I think they should be joining my voice in the fight that we should all be endeavoring to fight together.
Yeah, that would be wonderful, and I hope you're right. I hope 2017 brings out some courage in some of these other mining executives. Guys, our guest has been Keith Neumeyer. He's a giant shareholder in Silver One Resources. He's the chairman of First Mining Finance and the CEO of First Majestic Silver Corp. Keith Neumeyer, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, and guys, thank you for your support at sgtreport.com, thelibertymill.com, and thephaser.com. Real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda in 2017 and beyond. Have a